story began in a period of global devastation after a great war. In the only remaining city lived the witch Gray Alys, who was famous for granting any request to those who could pay. The church, displeased with her heresies, decided to make an example of her and condemned her to the gallows. However, the priestess had forgotten that one of the witch's talents was witchcraft itself, and it would not be so easy to execute her. Gray Alys enchanted one of the clergy's soldiers, who suddenly found himself with the rope around his own neck. In a panic, he broke the rope with a shot, only to realize he had just freed the condemned woman. Next, he saw the witch running toward him and opened fire, only to discover he had actually shot a fellow soldier. Confused and horrified, he collapsed to his knees, and the priestess executed him with a dagger, declaring that he was no longer trustworthy. She then ordered the others to pursue the witch, but Gray Alys stealthily attacked them one by one. When only the priestess remained, the witch surprised her with a blade. Under threat, the priestess had the rope placed around her own neck and was hanged from the gallows while the witch walked away. At the same time, a hunter named Boyce arrived in the city. About to walk into an ambush, he loudly announced that he was aware of it and didn't flinch as thugs began to surround him. One of them reached for a weapon but recoiled in horror at the sight of a pair of snakes coiled around it. The bite came swiftly, and the thug writhed on the ground while the rest were eliminated by Boyce's precise marksmanship. After dispatching them, he calmly collected his snakes, proud of his efficiency. Meanwhile, Gray Alys left a coin for a blind beggar and was startled when the poor woman thanked her by name. The woman explained that she recognized the witch's generosity, a trait growing increasingly rare in those times. However, she found it strange that Gray Alys's voice hadn't changed in decades, especially considering the beggar herself was younger than the witch. A little later, Gray Alys received a visit from the knight Jairus. Before he could even introduce himself, she guessed the truth. The real client was the queen, disguised under a cloak. When Gray Alys asked what the wish was, the queen requested to be left alone with her. Jairus protested, warning that it might be dangerous, but dared not disobey. Once alone, the queen claimed she knew Gray Alys's origin. She revealed that the witch had come from the Lost Lands, where the most terrible creatures defied the laws of nature. The queen confessed that she wished to obtain the secret of metamorphosis so she could transform into a wolf. The witch warned her that such a request could bring unpleasant consequences, but the queen insisted that it was none of her concern. Gray Alys accepted the money, never having refused a request. The plan was to send a hunter to the Lost Lands to capture a shapeshifter and then steal their power. She asked the queen to give her until the next full moon, 6 days away. After the agreement was sealed, Jairus returned to the witch's hideout. He said he also wished to do business, offering a family heirloom, a watch, his most treasured possession. His request was that she fail the queen's mission and not give her the power of metamorphosis. He swore loyalty to the crown and claimed he only wanted to protect the queen. But the witch, detecting the scent of envy on him, refused the request. Nevertheless, she accepted the watch, reminding him that she never refused a request. Alone at last, Gray Alys began to levitate, her mind overwhelmed by visions of a sinister cave. A group of brave hunters stepped over stacked skulls to confront the beast inside. Suddenly, a terrible werewolf lunged at them from the shadows, its cruel howl ending the vision. In the palace, the queen grew impatient with the weakness of her husband, the Supreme Lord. While attendants cared for him, she slipped away to say goodbye to Boyce, her lover. On her way out, soldiers intercepted him in the name of the Supreme Lord and attempted to arrest him, but Boyce spat his drink onto one of their torches and took the two down with ease. Later, Gray Alys approached him at a bar and said she was looking for a competent hunter to take her to the Lost Lands. Boyce warned her that city rules didn't apply in that territory and doubted she could keep up. Gray Alys showed no fear and told him he was free to abandon her if she became a burden, but she would do the same to him if necessary. After hearing the mission details, Boyce mentioned he had heard of a werewolf haunting a place called Skull River. Gray Alys offered Jairus's watch as payment for the trip. Just after they finalized the deal, soldiers from the clergy stormed the bar, still seeking the witch. Boyce joined her, and they barely escaped, though the twin snakes did not survive the priestess's sword. News of yet another failed attempt to capture Gray Alys reached the church's patriarch. He promised a reward for her capture. According to confiscated pamphlets, the witch was becoming a symbol of resistance, inspiring people to defy the powerful. Notably, she had also spared the priestess when given the chance. In response, the clergy tightened their siege, even capturing the poor blind woman. Under pressure, the woman confessed that the queen had visited Gray Alys recently, information that greatly interested the patriarch. He ordered the priestess to extract a full confession from the witch before eliminating her. By then, the two adventurers were already en route to the Lost Lands. Their first stop was a trading post where Boyce introduced Gray Alys to his friend Ross and Ross's sister Mara. Though she greeted them with a shotgun, Mara quickly warmed up and revealed herself to be more than a friend to Boyce. During dinner, Gray Alys emphasized they must reach their destination before the full moon, as she needed to catch their target in wolf form. Boyce believed the deadline was tight and said they could only make it if they followed the train track, crossing the mountains through the tunnels. After spending the night with Mara, Boyce set off with Gray Alys the next morning, warning her that from then on, there would be no more friendly faces. Unbeknownst to them, the priestess was arriving by train to pursue them. When the queen heard of this, she confronted the patriarch, arguing that the soldiers were needed in the city. He countered with rumors of her infidelity and their potential impact, regardless of the truth. Convinced the queen would not side with the clergy, the patriarch began preparing for the Supreme Lord's possible death. When the train arrived at the trading post, Ross and Mara were pressured for information. Watching her brother beaten, Mara resisted until a hot iron was brought out. Then, screaming, she revealed the witch's destination, Skull River. Despite this, the priestess ordered her men to burn everything down. Now, with only 3 days until the full moon, the duo arrived at a place known as the Rift. Boyce called for his acquaintance Cyrus, who operated an improvised cable car. When Cyrus didn't respond, they entered through a side door and searched through filthy corridors. Eventually, they found what remained of Cyrus, concluding that the priestess had arrived before them. Retracing their steps, they encountered her wearing sunglasses, an accessory all her soldiers now wore to avoid the witch's gaze. The priestess addressed Boyce and offered a hefty reward if he handed over the witch. Boyce declined, saying she had hired him first. Then he spotted Mara hanging on the wall. Her last breath summoned his name, and the priestess delivered a mercy shot in front of him. Enraged, Boyce opened fire, and Gray Alys proved she didn't need magic to defeat anyone. As soldiers fell, another wave came armed with sickles and axes. The duo held their ground. Only the priestess remained, confident someone would take the bullet for her. When a cannon turned toward Gray Alys, she barely dodged the blast. They fled into the wagon and triggered the mechanism with a distant shot. Some soldiers managed to jump aboard, and one climbed to the roof, firing through it. Gray Alys climbed up to deal with him directly. Seeing the witch win the fight, the priestess ordered her men to cut the cable. They obeyed quickly, releasing the first support and leaving the wagon hanging. She then shattered the second with a bullet, catapulting the wagon into the mountain wall. Gray Alys shouted to Boyce that their only way out was to climb. Easier for her, already outside, but Boyce was still balancing inside the wreckage. Moreover, the rope that held Boyce dangling over the abyss was fraying. It finally snapped just as he leapt toward the rocky wall, managing to follow Gray Alys to safety. But the priestess wasn't ready to give up. From the other side of the rift, she fired a shot that struck Boyce in the shoulder. As she aimed again, she forgot the witch's spell, and made the fatal mistake of looking directly into Gray Alys's eyes. The contact was brief, but enough to disorient her and make her lose focus. Later, Boyce removed the bullet from his shoulder with Gray Alys's help. As she stitched his wound, he told her she was very much like him and claimed he had known that since the moment he first looked into her eyes. Meanwhile, in the palace, the queen received news that she was pregnant. Pleased, she informed her nearly paralyzed husband that the future Supreme Lord was the child of a peasant named Boyce. After the confession, she pressed a pillow over his face and held it there until he stopped breathing. With only 2 days remaining until the full moon, Boyce and Gray Alys arrived at an abandoned military zone known as Shadowbane. Hearing the train approaching, they hid among the ruins of a power plant. Boyce warned her about the creatures that dwelled there, explaining that fire was the only thing they feared, and that they must keep a flame burning all night. As the lights began to flicker, a chilling sound echoed from all directions. A grotesque creature emerged from the shadows, baring its teeth. Boyce ignited a circle of fire around them, but it didn't prove as effective as hoped. One of the monsters, braver than the rest, leapt over the flames and entered the circle. Boyce narrowly dodged its claws, which left deep gouges in the ground. The creature lunged at Gray Alys, twisting its head unnaturally as it grappled with her. Boyce shoved it into a metal bar, but it began to pull itself free, unfazed by the blow. Gray Alys hurled one of her sickles at a barrel, triggering an explosion. This caught the attention of the upper echelon of the other race watching from above. They leapt onto the battlefield, and the leader addressed the witch by name. Face to face with Gray Alys, the leader didn't realize his greatest mistake was already made. She hypnotized him with her gaze, forcing him to step back, and then unleashed a blast of fire that surged through the creatures, wiping them all out at once. Exhausted, she collapsed into Boyce's arms and confessed that she had known the leader of the monsters. She explained that this place hid a treasure capable of granting immense power. Years ago, a man had hired her to help him obtain it. She had accepted, as she never refused a request, but the outcome had been tragic. That man had become the monster they had just defeated. On the morning of the final day before the full moon, the patriarch announced the death of the Supreme Lord to the people. He also proclaimed that the queen was pregnant and demanded that the unborn heir be exalted. But the audience remained silent, exchanging worried glances with Jairus, the knight. He gave the signal for the royal guard to raise their weapons at the crowd. With that coercion, the people began repeating phrases of celebration. The queen thanked the patriarch with false gratitude, and he feigned pleasure while secretly continuing his plot against her. In a private moment with the priestess, he ordered that the soldiers hasten their pursuit. Only with the witch's confession could he hope to depose the queen. Meanwhile, Boyce and Gray Alys arrived at the Fields of Fire, the final stop before Skull River. She told him she had to face the werewolf alone and extended Jairus' watch to him as payment. Boyce refused to leave, insisting she wouldn't survive without help. He pleaded with her to abandon the mission, but she said she had no choice. At the same time, the queen told Jairus that only the patriarch now stood between her and power. Jairus assured her the royal guard outnumbered the clergy's forces, but she remained unconvinced. She began to charm him, asking if he would truly do anything for her. Their conversation ended with a kiss. Back on the road, Boyce and Gray Alys passed through a tunnel when the tracks began to tremble. Boyce warned they wouldn't outrun the train, but Gray Alys had other plans. As the priestess approached, she was shocked to see Boyce standing calmly in the middle of the tracks. At the last second, Gray Alys sprinted toward the tunnel's mouth. Under pressure from the patriarch, the priestess ordered full speed ahead, only realizing the trap when it was too late. Beyond the tunnel, the bridge had collapsed. The train plunged into the abyss, exploding in a fiery crash. Hidden beneath the beams, Boyce caught Gray Alys's hand as she jumped. Far away in the palace, the patriarch heard the final screams of the priestess and realized his plan had failed. Enraged, he declared he would take the throne by force and began issuing commands, but no one obeyed. One by one, his closest men collapsed, revealing Jairus in their place. Jairus accused the patriarch of treason and executed him on the spot. At Skull River, Gray Alys and Boyce found countless skeletons piled high, remnants of those who had dared to face the werewolf. But the beast was nowhere to be seen, and the campfire hadn't been lit in a long time. Gray Alys said the full moon would rise that night and the creature would come. Boyce once again begged her to abandon the mission, while Jairus similarly tried to dissuade the queen. Both failed. When the full moon rose, Gray Alys finally revealed the truth. She had known all along that the werewolf was Boyce. He began to feel the onset of his transformation and insisted he had tried to warn her, but she didn't believe him. This transformation was more painful than before. Beneath his skin, a foreign object began to leak silvery liquid. Despite this, the metamorphosis completed and he lunged at the witch, but didn't look away from her eyes. Falling into hypnosis, he saw her as a flock of crows that merged into a massive bird. The monsters clashed, and the witch's claws struck the werewolf, tearing into him until he collapsed. When the clouds covered the moon, Boyce returned to human form. Gray Alys treated him tenderly and told him to rest. But when he awoke, he was chained. The witch confessed everything. After the priestess had shot him, she had inserted a silver coin beneath his skin while stitching his wound, knowing it was the only way to weaken him. She now had to fulfill her promise to the queen and take the wolf's power. As she raised her dagger, Boyce made his own request. He wished for Gray Alys as his companion. She reminded him that she never refused a request, but warned that the price could be steep. When the full moon reappeared, Boyce transformed once more. Gray Alys drove the dagger into his side. She then covered his body with stones and left the watch atop the pile as payment before returning to the city. The return of the invincible witch sparked an uprising. The people revolted. Gray Alys handed the werewolf's skin to Jairus and instructed that the queen must drip her own blood on it before wearing it, and that this must be done before dawn. Jairus asked for his watch back, saying she had chosen to fulfill the queen's request. Gray Alys replied that the queen was pregnant with Boyce's child. After taking Boyce's life, she had given Jairus what he truly wanted. When the queen learned of Boyce's death, she was devastated. She confessed that her wish to become a wolf had been so she could be with him always. Jairus tried to comfort her, once again declaring he would do anything for her. Furious, she demanded he prove it, and buried a sharp hairpin in his neck. By then the people had already stormed the castle. The queen fled. The sun rose, burning the wolf's skin and extinguishing the dreams of both her and Jairus. At Skull River, the stones stirred. Boyce was still alive. He returned to the city and confronted Gray Alys about her betrayal. She claimed she hadn't meant to harm him, only to remove the wolf's skin, and said she had known he would survive. To prove it, she predicted that he would try to shoot her, but the gun would jam. He pulled the trigger, it jammed. She drew a dagger. So did he. They pressed their blades to each other's throats. Then, they both burst into laughter. The stalemate ended with reconciliation, and together they fulfilled Boyce's wish. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next one. Want more? Check out our recap of similar movie right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.